Hello everybody and welcome back to the final episode of City Skylines. That's right, it's the last episode. Oh my god, no. Don't worry, there's going to be a second season on a new world, with new challenges, new mods, new assets, all kinds of new crazy cool things. We're going to be starting over and it's going to be a lot of fun. I kind of feel like this city's come to its natural conclusion, although we haven't quite finished all of the areas that I was doing, but I've decided, hey, it's time to give it up. And there's going to be a world download as well. How awesome is that? I know a few of you have been requesting it for a while, and with me, I find that I like to do those things when I'm done with a world. Once I'm done with it, then you can have it and have, fun playing around with it, or whatever you want to do in this world. It's now yours. So in the description box down below, there's going to be a link to a Steam page. It's going to be in the form of a collection, because along with the world download, I've also included, I think, all of the things that you'll need to run this. So that doesn't include all of the mods. For example, we're playing with the text scaled here a little bit high. You can see this is bigger than usual. A sign of that would be that the active goes under that box right there. And there's a few other enhancements and things that aren't really necessary to actually play the game. But in order to load the world, you need all of the assets like these ones right here. Otherwise they just won't be there, which will be disappointing. And so all of those have been included in a collection, and that's available down there in the description box. Like I said, by the time you're watching this video, I'll just set that up and you'll be able to download the world. If you download it as a collection, it means it will install all of the assets as well. But of course the world by itself will be in there if you don't wish to install any of those things. So you'll get the world in the state that it's in right now with the death crisis going on. Don't worry about that. It'll clear up after a short while, and then you're free to do what you want with this world, which is awesome. And we're just saying goodbye by flying around and looking at all of the different areas. I prepared something really cool for you. I recorded something earlier today where I went through every single episode and kind of created a commentary of me talking over the top of clips of all of the videos, so you can see the entire city develop from the beginning to what it's like now in a 10-minute clip. Obviously not covering every single thing that we did, but covering the most part of it. And that was a heck of a lot of fun to record, actually. It's a little bit difficult to kind of record that stuff because there's so many clips to look at and then talk about. But I hope you'll enjoy it. We're going to watch that for the next 10 minutes, and then we'll come back and say goodbye to the world for the last time. So it all had to start somewhere, and this is where we started with some basic zones that weren't actually connected to our main highway. I was curious to see if people would move in, and they did. And back then I gave you guys a tip as well to space out the zones with room for the electricity to go through the middle, which turned out to be rubbish because I didn't realise that they actually had their own electric network. But then by the end of the episode we had this area kind of zoned out, and lots of houses moved in, and we got off to a good start here on the series. Then in the episode after, we started looking at districts and expanding the zones, as you can see here, just creating a district at the top, and also for the industrial one down the bottom as well. And then by the end of that episode we had some traffic problems. As you can see here, we installed our first roundabout and we had a lot of issues with people coming into the city. Obviously at that point we had no public transport, so we were bound to see these issues, and I was working on ways to fix them. But then after that we started our big industrial area. We had brought a new tile of land to work in. We had made a new intersection, or at least taken over the one that was already there, and started to zone out where our next industrial area was going to be. And after that we started to expand our main area. We tried to build this little cross section and didn't go quite to plan. We were still figuring out how to do things. Obviously roundabouts seemed to be the best, but at the top here you can see we're putting that big old roundabout to expand into the area at the top, which I think was called Empire District. Yeah, remembering the names of these things would be quite useful. But anyway, eventually we did manage to expand all of that. You can see here lots of commercial zones, and behind it residential. And over time we expanded that all the way over to the other side. But after that we started working on the university with some interesting road designs, having some semicircles and circles in which we put offices around the university. So it took us a while to get there, but eventually we got the university in place. And here it is. You can see the university and the offices around it, and then the area at the top where we had continued with our expansion. Then after that we started to look at getting public transport in place. We had all of our zoned areas kind of maxed out, and we were starting to work with the buses, trying to reduce the traffic, which back then there was a lot of. As you can see here, the roundabouts are very, very busy. And after that we started to deal with the landfills, emptying them out, turning over to the incinerators, and we created this crazy road down to the end of this area. and we just had this massive backlog of trucks going out into the city to collect all of the rubbish, which was interesting. Of course, they're also moving it out of the landfills and into the incinerators as well. But it was a very interesting time in the city where we had just tons and tons of garbage trucks going absolutely everywhere. And then came a boom in our city. Our commercial areas got their first tall buildings, which is of course a good thing to see. And then we moved on to zoning out a new area. We built some large intersections and new motorways, and then we zoned out this area over here on the beach. And by the time the next episode rolled around, of course, it was booming and everything was going pretty good. So we then decided to fill in the space in between our roads with a massive, massive area with tons and tons of roads. Half of this was, of course, residential, and the other half was going to be full of offices. And once again, by the time the next episode rolled around, it was booming. It was doing ever so good, which is great to see. And of course, we also built a new area in the corner called Hermitcroft. That was our first residential area that had high-tech housing, which we ended up with in the whole city, which is pretty cool. And after that, we zoned out this new residential area next to the motorway, and then we started to zone out some forestry areas as well, which weren't so successful. Later on in that episode, we built a dam, and over there to the right, you can see the forestry area, and that gave us a ton of traffic problems, so we ended up removing the entire thing. And then came one of my favourite moments in the series, the big crisis where we had to plunge the city into chaos simply to unlock some unique buildings. You can see down at the bottom there, we're watching the unique building unlock. That was a lot of fun to do, and of course the city did recover, and in the next episode we built ourselves this custom octagon roundabout, which technically isn't round because it's an octagon, but it was a lot of fun to create our own intersection, and it looked really cool and it works pretty well as well. And then after that, we started to play around with the cargo bays to bring goods into the industrial area. At the time, I didn't quite understand how that worked, so our first attempt wasn't really the best, and we ended up removing that little thing that we created. But then after then, we went and zoned out more areas with more roads, roundabouts, intersections, just to fill up the space on the edge of the islands. Then after that, I managed to find an aerial shot of the city, so you can see kind of what we've been up to so far. And then in the next episode, I started to put trees in and around all of those intersections and the spaces between the motorways and the houses, which was pretty fun to do, starting to get a kind of understanding for the aesthetics in the game. Then we installed the solar power plant, and we built our first half of the new industrial area. As you can see, it wasn't doing too good at the time. And then after that, we finally got around to building Avalon. We put motorways around the outside of the island and kind of zoned it up into 3 different sections with 3 roundabouts connecting them, which was a lot of fun. And of course, it didn't take it too long to get up and running. It took a little longer than usual, and you can see half the island here doing good. And we also got that unique building in the middle, which I've got to say does look a little bit odd and out of place. And then after that, we started to work on the beach area. We started off with our semicircle area for our train line and also a bunch of offices as well. And then in the next episode, we were putting paths down on the beach, giving lots of little buildings and details and things like that, making it look like a beach, although I still don't think I did a terrific job on that. But anyway, after that, we've done another expansion with some more octagon shapes, 3 different residential blocks, which we turned into high density residential zones. And then after that, we started work with the second half of our industrial area, which was on the other side of the intersection. And this one, of course, had the cargo bay as well, which we were going to hook up to the train line. And then came the mother of all projects, the commercial hub. You can see it here with a massive ring roads around the outside. This was a circular part of the city, probably one of the biggest ones we'd done, and it was going to be all dedicated to the commercial area. And it didn't take us long to get it up and online with some commercial buildings and even a couple of unique buildings in the middle. And of course, we had some traffic problems. We were always going to have traffic problems in this area, you know, forever tweaking the direction of the roads and changing little things here and there. But then after a while, we had it all zoned out. We had loads of low density on the outside, high density on the inside, and a ring of offices to separate them, which wouldn't stay that way forever. And then we started work on the outer drive, that being loads more residential buildings on the outside of the commercial hub, which looked really cool. And then here's a shot of me zoning the area in the middle, and you can see there that the outside area looks fully developed and it's pretty well complete at this point. So we went back to another project we tried to do in one of the early episodes, the beach, and this time I downloaded some custom parks with custom assets, and this looked absolutely amazing. You can see the people here hanging out with the parasols on the beach, and all those little details just really made it come to life and made that project a lot better. And then came the airport. This was the first time that we used car parks in the city, and we built a little designated area like this, and it looked just ever so cool. And adding in all those trees as well looked really awesome, and no doubt had a big influence on the rest of our projects, like the next one where we built this lovely looking intersection and a group of roads underneath it, which would then become a sports district as we added in tons of parks with tennis courts, basketball courts, stadiums, car parks, all sorts of really cool stuff going on in that area. Probably one of my favourite projects of the entire series. Then after that came Love Lake and the area with all the natural resources. This would have been pretty much a constant experiment to the end of the series with us trying to get some industries to work just through public transport. And then after that came the big area, the last big residential area we zoned, full of crazy cool looking roads going off in all sorts of directions. I really like the way we'd laid that out, and we left this big area in the middle for the mayor's office as well, which we did in the style of a park with some other big buildings around it. And I think it turned out pretty cool. It wasn't quite what I was going for, but it did end up looking pretty good. And then after that we of course built the space elevator, which eventually had its own commercial area around it. So then came the Seaport to bring tourists in from abroad. Not the most exciting of advances, but something we did. And then here we have another unique building in the middle of a roundabout, which looked really cool. That's the intersection of our new fancy area. And then after that came the commercial square, which was near that new area. An experiment with one-way roads, you can see here in a sort of squarish layout. And although it had a lot of traffic in it, it was basically accommodating for a lot rather than getting a lot of congestion. So I'd say that was one of the more successful layout experiments. Then we had this thing where we hooked up 2 cargo bays and built a crazy road system to let our vehicles in and out. And that was a lot of fun to do. It may not have been the best of creations, but it was really fun to do. And then after that we built the Eden project, a lovely looking building, one of the 5 monuments, and that was a lot of fun to unlock and put into the city. And then we built the pentagram intersection. This thing was a custom asset though, it wasn't made by myself, something I downloaded from the workshop, and not only does it look cool, it served the purpose as well. And then after that came a really awesome project, one of my favourites, the stadium. You can see here we put the 4 sides of the stadium in, and we also put loads of car parks and buildings around it, and I just love how this looks. It looks like a proper English football ground, that's for sure, or one of the more modern ones anyway. And after that project we started to have a little bit of fun driving around in the city using some of the first person camera mode which I had recently discovered. That was a lot of fun to do. It's really fun to see the city from the first person perspective, and I kind of feel like we don't do that enough, so maybe in the next season that'll be something to look forward to doing on a regular basis. And then after that came another area expansion, one that we never quite finished, but was certainly a lot of fun to put the roads out. So I forget the name of this one, but it's another monument building, and of course being near the end of the game we're trying to get all of the monuments built. I think at this point there is only one more to build, and we did do a little bit of industrial area expansion with a second cargo bay for all of the extra goods that we were producing. And then we built the last of the monuments. I think this is the fusion power plant, I forget the actual name of it, but we put it in there with a little garden around the outside as well. And then after that we built yet another industrial area, a one-way road system thing, or whatever you want to call it, down the bottom here. And this actually turned out to be a really nicely designed area with the cargo bay, the train cargo station, whatever it's called, at the top area there. And then after that, the very last thing we did in the last episode, of course, was the train station and the park that you can see right here. And so that's it. We now get to say goodbye to this world. It's been a lot of fun playing on it. I'm looking forward to the new one. And again, if you want to suggest something in the comments, I'm still looking for ideas. What I'm thinking at the moment is that we're going to play on rough and difficult terrain that's going to separate lots of parts of the cities, and we should look at connecting them together using public transport. A lot of you have been suggesting to create areas where the roads are completely separate from one another, which I'm partially interested and partially unsure about as well. You know, if you go in one direction, it limits you from doing other things. However, the challenge feels like something that I want. I want a challenge, and I also want the freedom to work with aesthetics as well. So I'm going to be looking at a lot of aesthetical things, as well as having a good gameplay challenge in there as well. So they're my ideas for the next season. You're going to be seeing that coming along soon. I'm not sure how many days it will be, but I want to get prepared and know what I'm doing and have the time to record as well. Things have been a little bit busy lately, although I think that they're always busy, and I'm just like never sort of clocking on to that. At least that's what it feels like. And it looks like some of the assets, okay, no, it's where we change the graphical settings, they disappear when you zoom out. That's something that we won't have in the new world at the beginning, because it's going to be a lot smaller and the game will run a lot smoother. But anyway, I want to say thank you to all of you for watching these videos, leaving all your comments and likes and giving this series some terrific support. It really has been awesome to have a new game that I really like and that you all like as well, and we're going to do it again in the second season, and it's going to be just as much fun, if not more, than this season right here. So, as always, thank you very much for watching, and I'll catch you next time.